Alright, is it recording? Hey! Jacob came from, it is Thanksgiving break, and we decided, because Jacob is a Pixar boy, we decided to go see Coco.
Because he refused to see Cars 3.
Yes, I'm not seeing Cars 3. But, I don't really have anything, to preface this much. I saw trailers for it, and it looked really good, nice animation, Pixar norm. So I was like, and it's original, so that's what I'm looking, because, I'm not a big fan of the whole, Pixar just doing a bunch of sequels and basically the same thing, and that'll tie into something I have later, but,
Leon Cridge, the director, he made his directorial debut with Toy Story 3, and this is his second movie.
Pretty fucking good career so far. This movie was really good. I have complaints, but I want to talk about what I like first. The real star of this movie is the animation.
The dog?
The animation. The animation is fucking incredible. Even if you don't watch that little short thing beforehand, that one shot had, millions of lights, every frame of this movie is fucking gorgeous. There were actually parts where I was just that really does look photorealistic. The old lady at the very end.
Yeah.
Her hand. I was like, you cannot fucking convince me that's not a real-ass old lady hand. And, the characters, and it didn't, clash like The Good Dinosaur, where it was just, cartoony characters and photorealistic backgrounds. It was nah, this was a perfect blend of both, and it was gorgeous. The color palette was wonderful.
Did you see The Book of Life 3 years ago?
I saw it in Spanish class. I like this more than The Book of Life.
I have not seen The Book of Life.
I have actually similar complaints with it, even though both movies are very similar in story, but they're not similar enough to even really be compared other than aesthetics
or Day of the Dead.
I have two major complaints that keep this from being in my opinion, one of Pixar's best. Excuse me. One
You're
being
not excused.
Well, thank you. One being the story. It was not bad, and I'm not just talking about the twists. I just kind of knew how everything would happen in this movie. There's nothing... there's one thing that happens where I was oh, okay, that was a thing I didn't see coming. But everything else, I was no, I know how this is gonna go. And we did literally catch what the twist... if you have seen a movie, not even, movies, if you've seen a movie and you're over the age of 10, you can guess what one of the really big major twists in this movie is. And I know that's not, a slight against the movie, because it is for kids, and that's fine. I'm just saying, as a story, I didn't find it as enthralling as something like Finding Nemo, I guess, which has a really solid narrative, or the Toy Story films, which all have a really solid narrative, and they just kept kind of doing things that were unexpected. This movie did not really do that. It was just as soon as the prologue, that little introductory segment was done, doing the whole history of their family, I'm yeah, I pretty much know how this movie's gonna go.
And I don't know, the grandmother was so fucking petty.
I mean, she was, but that's the point.
I know,
they get over it.
Because it's oh, I'm gonna blame the profession and not the guy.
Yeah, that's the point, is because them being petty. But it's this is literally the plot from Footloose. It's the family doesn't like musicians because a musician was their grandfather and he ran out of them and abandoned them. And normally I'd say that is something that I would hate, because it is so trite and done, but I feel the way this movie handled that aspect was very strong, because all of the characters, you kind of get where they're coming from, because it's oh yeah, this guy ran out on you, and then basically it's a family inherited bias that they keep passing on, and that's what the story's about, is them getting to break it, and that's fine. But my other big problem with the movie is the characters. They were fine, but nothing about them really, stuck with me.
Aside from Miguel?
Miguel was cool. He was a decent lead, but, other than being just kind of like, well-written, I want to preface that, and his voice actor does a great job, and he can fucking sing, too. Like, holy shit, he can sing. But the characters didn't feel very, like, definitive. Like, this is way more plot-driven than most Pixar movies tend to be. The characters aren't as strong. Like, I like Miguel. I liked mostly everybody, but
I liked Hector.
Yeah, I liked Hector.
Oh, yeah. And
I liked them, but there was nothing about them that was like, hey, this guy, like, with Miguel, it's like, oh, he likes music. With Hector, it's like, oh, there's history with Hector a little bit. Like, I guess he's probably the movie's most well-rounded character, but, you know, it was all very standard.
And there's something I want to talk about, but, so, spoiler alert.
Yeah, again, this is a very light spoiler alert. Like, again, if you have seen any movie, and there is actually one other thing I want to talk about that I'm not holding against the film. It's just something I noticed, but yeah, you go.
The movie was they blatantly advertised, oh, he finds out his greatest idol is his long-lost grandfather or some shit.
Are you about to mention what I'm about to mention? Go ahead.
And I thought that they were just overly giving you away the twist on accident in the trailers, and no, the twist is that's not the twist.
Yeah. But, like, when the movie started, like, you can kind of tell. But here's something that I think is interesting just to note, is that this movie, while I think the third act pulled it together and kind of saved it, but in the second act, I found myself really noticing how familiar all these elements are. And I'm not talking about the story not being, like, particularly unique or anything. I'm only talking about in the way of other Pixar films. Like, think about this for a moment. It's like, you got the main character who really idolizes this guy, and then he meets him. No, and Up. And he meets the guy that he grew up watching on TV, and it turns out that he's like a horrible murderer, crazy person. And then it's Ratatouille because he's like the whole lineage thing, except it wasn't, but it was still another character who did that.
It was also kind of Toy Story.
Yeah, there were so many parts where I was just like, that kind of reminds me of that one part of, like, and I think there were some callbacks where I was just like, the only Pixar movies that I didn't immediately think of were, when watching this, were like the Cars movies, pretty much everything post-Up, WALL-E,
That'd be Brave.
Yeah.
Brave, Inside Out, and The Good Dinosaur are the only original films.
Yeah, those. Like, all those I didn't much think of, but, like, Pixar's first 7 movies, specifically...
There was even a shot where there was, like, hanging Woody and Buzz toys.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I don't mean that. I'm just saying, like, they seem to borrow a lot of elements, and this is kind of like Pixar's greatest hits. And I don't have a problem with that, because at the end of the day, it took so many, like, different things from the movies that it sort of became its own thing.
Well, hey, some other work that Lee Unkrich did before he directed Toy Story 3 in this was he was the supervising film editor of the original Toy Story. He co-directed Toy Story 2, Monsters, Inc. and Finding Nemo. So maybe because of his
That's true. There's just a lot of moments where I think you'll, especially if you're a fan of Pixar, where I think you'll be like, this feels a bit familiar. But it's not the worst thing.
Okay, there's something else that I want to talk about. Fuck you, Disney!
Oh, are we gonna talk about Frozen? Okay,
Fuck
so
off.
this is gonna be a complete aside, but it was kind of a shenanigan in and of itself. Like, Jacob and I were gonna go get food, and then I had to drive my drunk mom to Walmart on it's Black Friday, so we had to go get groceries, and I had to drive him there, then go back. So I found Jacob, and then we went here. We got our tickets. We go into the theater. Guy says second one on the right. We go in there and we're just sitting, and then all of a sudden, like, the logos start playing,
and it's Lionsgate.
Yeah, it's Lionsgate, and it was Wonder, and I was like, this is the wrong movie. So we just go out, and then we find it like, oh, okay, this movie's still having previews. So we get in there. The movie finished like the one preview for that one shitty animated movie they had where they like took selfies or something, and then, instead of normally what happens with a Pixar movie is they play a short beforehand, and that, like, maybe it'll substitute, like, one of the previews. I don't know how many previews there were before this, but then they played a Frozen short, and I like Frozen. It's a good movie.
It was 25 fucking minutes.
It was 20 minutes long. And, like, dude, it's not like the movie was that long, but like, alright, come on. This had previews, and it had this 20-minute long Frozen short, and I wouldn't really be mad but it was so awful. It was so bad. Jacob and I were Mystery Science Theatering the fuck out of it, and just like,
we had no idea what was going on. It made no sense.
It was like, okay, so it's centered around Olaf, you know, everyone's favorite part of Frozen. And, like, I swear to God, like, I legitimately thought that this entire thing was voiced by, like, different people. And then I looked it up, and no, all the voice cast is their original roles. They just all sound tired and sad, because they clearly don't want to be there. Like, Idina Menzel straight up sounds like she just, like, downed codeine. She sounds so upset. And, like, the whole thing is, like, this predictable, boring, like, I told Jacob it reminded me of fucking Belle's Magical World, the direct-to-DVD sequel to Beauty and the Beast, midquel to Beauty and the Beast.
You mean Beauty and the Beast 3 Belle's Magical World?
What the fuck ever. But that's what it reminded me of. Like, the animation was fine.
It's like,
the color palette was ugly as fuck.
Olaf was, apparently, the plot was... Anna and Elsa got sad about some fucking tradition. And Olaf was like, oh, I'm gonna go help you by getting a fruit cake.
And then the Grinch happens.
He lit the sled on fire. It was so fucking confusing.
It was, it just like, shit just kind of
Batman v Superman was easier to follow.
And like, just... like, the song transitions were horrid. Like, a character would just be like, well, I don't know about that. Song! And I'm like...
It came close to topping Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
For the worst song transition. It was just fucking... Well, it was boring on top of everything else. The animation wasn't good. The voice acting was bad. The plot, like, whatever. And again, this is not a big deal if this is like a 3-minute long short in front of your fucking movie. But it is 9:35 at night. I do not have time to be sitting there watching a half-assed Frozen short this 20 goddamn minutes long. Who the fuck else is gonna want to watch this? You think some kids and like moms and parents are gonna go?
There were people who got up midway through the Frozen short because they thought they were in the wrong
they thought they were in the wrong movie theater, and I was just like, oh, they think this is Frozen too. I just really sounded like fucking cinema snob. They think this is Frozen 2.
Plot twist, that was actually the first 20 minutes of Frozen 2.
It's like they should have picked Doug's script. But like, that was shit. And it made me appreciate the animation and just everything in Coco a little bit more, because it was obviously made by people who give a shit.
I thought the reason why the movie's called Coco was because they were gonna throw in like a hot cocoa joke.
It's not spelled that way though. C-O-C-O. But, yeah, I enjoyed this movie. I'd say, like, of the post-Wall-E... Pixar... Okay, post-Toy Story 3. Post-Toy Story 3 Pixar movies, I'd say this is the second best, only after Inside Out. Personally.
Because, like, as far... Like, Pixar's lineup post-Toy Story 3... You got Cars 2.
No.
Brave.
Nope.
Monsters University.
Nope.
Inside Out.
Yep.
The Good Dinosaur.
Ugh.
Finding Dory.
Ugh.
And Cars 3.
Ugh. Yeah, like Coco is easily the second best. In terms of overall Pixar, I'd have to, like, see it again and let it ruminate with me to see if I like it more or like it less, but I'd put this on the better half of those movies. I think it's in the better, like, in the top, like, how many movies do they have now? Like 17, 18?
18, something like that.
I'd put this in the top 9.
Well, like,
but not like really high. I didn't think this was better than like Ratatouille. I didn't think this was better than Up or it's about on par with Toy Story 1. And it's about the same as Bug's Life too. Which are all good movies.
This is gonna sound weird. Objectively or subjectively, whatever the fuck the word is, I don't know anymore.
Objectively is, like, purely from a critical point of view. Subjectively is from, like, a personal point of view.
Okay, well, objectively, I'd probably say this is... I'm gonna go as far as to say, I think this was... It's on par with Inside Out. I can't decide which one's better.
I'd say Inside Out is better because it was a lot more unexpected and different. And I know a lot of people would be like, well, what about that one sitcom called Herman's Head that did it? And what about Osmosis Jones? Both of those sucked. Shut up, everyone who complains about that. It's stupid.
And the way I hate to bring him up again, but the way YMS was like, sadness, I mean Eeyore.
By the way, that cop is patrolling around probably because he's waiting for people to leave. We should probably start the car and go. We can keep this on if we need to talk anymore. But I would say that this is well worth your time. It was a lot better. Like, Morgan and I didn't get to do a screening of it or a video on it because we just put it in that podcast about Justice League. Fuck me, this was a refreshing, like, breath of fresh air after Justice League.
I'm gonna leave the camera on because I want to keep talking.
Yeah, but I enjoyed this film. If anything, like, if you're looking for something different story and character-wise, you will not find it here. It is perfectly serviceable and fine, but see it for the animation. It is well worth your money. It's great. The music, I forgot about that, because, like, this almost crosses into musical territory, but all of them are, like, in universe. Like, all of the performances are actual just performances of the characters. But, like, it has a lot of songs, and they're really well performed and interesting songs. It's really nice and really good. And the animation is just so nice.
I think Inside Out is Inside Out is my second favorite post Toy Story 3 Pixar movie, but I'd say it's the best post Toy Story 3 Pixar movie, and then the Coco's second best.
Yeah.
Because I still have a soft spot for Brave.
I understand. It's definitely, like, I'd put that as, like, probably third, along with those other movies.
Brave,
I don't think it's shitty like other people say it is.
Brave is underrated.
Yeah, it's fine.
Cars 2 is not underrated,
Cars 2 sucks.
But it's not 35% bad.
It's like 40% bad.
I'd go as far as to say maybe 50%.
I think I gave.
I think it's better than Man of Steel.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's not hard to be. Overall, like, if I had to give it a, like, since I'm sometimes randomly doing it, but if I had to give this a numerical score, 7 or 8, 7.5, like, something like that. It's real good. Like, whether or not it ends up being an actual 7 or an actual 8 depends on how much I'll like it, like, later, because I watch all the Pixar movies multiple times, except for the Cars movies, because fuck those. But yeah, I'd give it like a 7.5 or an 8. It was quite good.
Fuck the Frozen short, though.
Fuck that Frozen short.
Again,
I'm giving that shit a 1. Fuck it. I don't even
Why
care.
can't they just reverse the Cars 3 and Coco shorts?
I don't know.
What is it with Pixar and having a fetish for the Cars films?
I don't know.
Because think about this, guys. If John Lasseter doesn't direct any more movies, that means Cars 2 will be his last directing credit.
What a film to go out on, am I right? Or am I right?
Oh yeah, because he was originally going to do Toy Story 4, but then he's like, oh, I can't direct the movie and supervise
I just remembered
movies.
that we were looking forward to this movie so much because it was the one original one in, like, the sea of sequels and stuff. And now I'm like, fuck, now we gotta look forward to all the sequels. Except Incredibles 2, because that's gonna be fucking awesome.
Actually, Pixar only has 2 sequels left in their lineup, Incredibles 2 and Toy Story 4.
Oh, really? Okay. I'm actually down for both. I mean, I want to see Toy Story 4 just to, like... It's pure morbid curiosity, honestly. Like, I just gotta know. But Incredibles 2, I don't even honestly lump Incredibles in with, like, traditional Pixar. Because it's a Brad Bird movie,
so is
and
Ratatouille.
It feels like one. Ratatouille feels a little bit more like Pixar, but I think The Incredibles, like, I can't even think of much in common that the rest of Pixar's library has in with The Incredibles.
I think I know why Ratatouille feels more like a Pixar movie than The Incredibles. Apparently, it had something in common with both Brave and The Good Dinosaur. The original director gave up on the project 2/3 of the way into the production, and Lasseter asked Brad Bird to replace him.
Actually,
and it's funny. The original director of Ratatouille that gave up was the director of Jerry's Game.
Oh yeah, that's right. Forgot about that. But actually, if I will say, like, this movie, like, Coco is primarily, like, you got themes of family, and it's handled well. But if you ask me, I think Incredibles did that a little bit better, because something they do in Coco is more like, oh, your dad didn't abandon us for music. Instead, he was murdered. And it's like, oh, well, it kind of would have been just more interesting if he really did leave him. But I get the point. But like with The Incredibles, it was much less like, oh, we have to... They like actually had to overcome their problems. Like the plot didn't just come in and be like, oh, this actually happened, so you all could be friends again. Like, no, they all had to grow and like learn to actually like each other and work together. And that's probably just because Incredibles is really fucking good. But
because Brad Bird, because Pixar normally tends to have the screenwriter and the directors be two different people, whereas The Incredibles is like one of the only exceptions where Brad Bird was both.
Are they not open 24 hours? That'd be kind of sucky. I mean, it looks like there's still enough people here. Bye! We're going Blu-ray hunting, maybe.